The day doesn't go by that a truck driver doesn't scream out at me red light, hey, where's Bernie?
Hey, remember when a movie about dragging a dead guy through beach parties somehow became a cult classic movie of the 80s? That was Weekend at Bernie's. Released in 1989 by 20th Century Fox and directed by Ted Kotcheff, the film took peak late 80s yuppie culture, threw it into a blender with slapstick corpse comedy, and somehow turned it into a hit. Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman played Larry and Richard, two junior insurance guys whose relaxing Hamptons getaway takes a slight detour after they discover that their boss, Bernie Lomax, played by Terry Kiser, is very, very dead. And yet somehow the party, it keeps going. What followed was one of the strangest comedy hits of the decade. Movie critics weren't kind to it. Cable TV refused to let die, and pop culture turned it into a permanent reference. Behind the antics and the famous Bernie smirk was a production filled with improv chaos, Hollywood scandals, real injuries, and one tiny acting decision that genuinely saved the whole movie. Today we're going to count down 15 weird facts about Weekend at Bernie's that you probably never knew. And stick around for number one, because without that single behind-the-scenes choice, this movie probably becomes a horror film instead of a comedy classic. Before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe. And let us know in the comments where you first saw it. Was it in the theater, a VHS rental, or randomly on cable at 2 p.m. like me? All right, grab your sunglasses and your wheelchair, because we're heading to the Hamptons. Number 15, the two Coreys almost got the corpse. Before Weekend at Bernie's became the ultimate dragging a corpse through the Hamptons comedy, it almost looked completely different. Early in development, according to long-running industry lore, the project was kicked around as a possible vehicle for the hottest duo in late 80s teen cinema, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. Two kids accidentally stuck babysitting a dead body? Well, right after the Lost Boys put them on every bedroom wall in America, the Coreys would have turned this into pure teenage mayhem. Skateboards, jean jackets, a boombox maybe somewhere in the background. You can practically see this alternate timeline poster. The filmmakers, though, they went in a different direction. Larry and Richard got reimagined as insurance company employees clawing up the corporate ladder. And suddenly, the corpse comedy doubled as a satire of a world that was so obsessed with money and status that nobody notices that the host of the party is literally dead. And the casting chaos didn't end there. Jonathan Silverman got locked in early. John Cryer was brought in to play opposite him. Screen tests were already happening. But then Cryer's old Pretty in Pink co-star showed up and changed everything. We'll get to that part in a minute, because the guy who walked in and stole the role from John Cryer was specifically known for playing the sensitive one, and he wanted to play the smug one. Number 14, the dead guy dance that took over Major League Baseball. Now, most cult movies fade away after a few years. Weekend at Bernie's somehow came back from the dead, which, when you think about it, is kind of on brand. Around 2009, 2 decades after the movie hit theaters, Shreveport, Louisiana hip-hop act ISA dropped a track called Movin' Like Bernie. Berney. Yes, deliberately misspelled. Someone made a rap song about a fictional corpse, and the internet ate it alive. The accompanying dance, I don't know if I can explain it. It's like a loose, floppy, kind of like zombie on vacation-like move, was inspired by Bernie's reanimated puppet scenes in the 1993 sequel. Then, Major League Baseball got involved. During the Oakland A's improbable 2012 division-winning run, reliever Jerry Blevins discovered the ISA track and played it for center fielder Coco Crisp, who, come on, has like the best name ever for baseball players. But anyways, Crisp brought it into the clubhouse, and then the whole team caught on. Third baseman Brandon Inge eventually made it his walk-up music. When Inge went out with a season-ending injury, Crisp picked up the torch. He adopted a separate but related song, Bernie Lean, by LA rappers ATM and IMD, as his own walk-up song. Now, before long, the entire O.Co Coliseum was leaning back and wobbling along. It was a weird sight, but the peak came on September 1st of 2012. It was Bernie night. The A's invited Terry Kiser, then 73 years old, to throw out the ceremonial first pitch in full Bernie character. A packed Coliseum, sunglasses on, smirk locked in. Try explaining that to someone in 1989. A one-joke corpse comedy somehow survived long enough to become a viral dance, a baseball ritual, and one of the strangest pop culture resurrections in modern memory. Bernie really did come back from the dead. Twice. Number 13. Andrew McCarthy refused to play the nice guy. By 1989, Andrew McCarthy had basically become Hollywood's official heartthrob in distress. Pretty in Pink, St. Elmo's Fire, Mannequin. If a movie needed someone to stare wistfully out a window while synth music was playing, his agent's phone was already ringing. So when Weekend at Bernie's came calling, the producers had him read for exactly what you would expect. Richard Parker, the uptight, nervous, responsible half of the duo, the sensitive one, the one who panics, typecast on a silver platter. McCarthy, he said nah, he passed. He read the script and immediately wanted Larry Wilson instead, the scheming, smirking, irresponsible opportunist who treats finding a dead boss like a minor inconvenience standing between him and a free weekend in the Hamptons. After years of playing nice guys with feelings, he wanted to play the guy with none. He lobbied for the swap, and he got it. And that one decision rewired the entire movie. Silverman's tightly wound panic, playing off McCarthy's smirking indifference, became the engine of the whole film. Richard frets, Larry shrugs, and Bernie decomposes. And that's just on repeat for the rest of the runtime. Without the swap, you've got a different cast, you've got a different chemistry, and probably a very different film. Maybe no cult classic even at all. Number 12, Built to Die, just like its owner. In the late 80s, nothing screamed, I've made it, quite like vacationing in the Hamptons. Big beach houses, boat docks, tennis whites, and rich people casually ignoring federal crimes while sipping wine coolers. Basically, the natural habitat of every movie villain was suspenders and insider trading money. Weekend at Bernie's leaned all the way into that fantasy. The movie wants you to believe you're watching Manhattan yuppies partying in the most elite of playgrounds. There's just one problem. Almost none of it was actually filmed there. The production packed up and headed to North Carolina, where they faked the entire Hamptons illusion across 3 coastal locations: Bald Head Island, Wrightsville Beach, and Fort Fisher. And here's the kicker. Bernie's iconic oceanfront mansion, the visual anchor of the whole film, didn't exist before the movie. The crew built it from scratch on Fort Fisher State Recreation Area. The catch? Because it was state park land, the structure was always meant to be temporary. Translation? One of the most iconic movie homes of the late 80s was specifically built to then self-destruct. And that's exactly what happened. The camera stopped rolling and the crew tore the whole thing down. So today, if you visit the spot hoping to see Bernie's Beach Palace, you'll just find dunes, seagrass, and an empty stretch of State Park Beach. A monument to 80s greed, gone without a trace. Meanwhile, the dead guy who lived in it became immortal. Number 11, the director who threw a walkie-talkie into the ocean. For a movie this loose and goofy, the man behind the camera was anything but. Ted Kotcheff was best known for directing First Blood, and he brought some of that volcanic energy to a slapstick beach comedy about a dead boss. According to Andrew McCarthy's memoir, Brat, an 80s story, Kotcheff was, in his own words, an explosive guy who occasionally lost his cool in spectacular fashion. McCarthy describes Kotcheff screaming profanities at extras through a bullhorn, and during one take, an assistant director's walkie-talkie crackled. Kotcheff's response? He grabbed it and chucked it straight into the Atlantic. No discussion, no warning. So somewhere off the coast of North Carolina, there's some barnacle-covered walkie-talkie that briefly worked for a major Hollywood production. The scene where dead Bernie casually waves at women in bikinis from his chair, that was McCarthy's idea. He tied a length of fishing line to Bernie's wrist and yanked it subtly off camera. Almost nobody catches it on first viewing, and once you do, you can't unsee it. A director who could blow up over a radio, and a leading man quietly engineering the perfect sight gag with a piece of string. That was Bernie's set. Number 10, the soundtrack that had no business being this stacked. For a movie this dumb on its surface, Weekend at Bernie's somehow attracted real music talent. The score was composed by Andy Summers. Yes, that Andy Summers, the guitarist from The Police. By the late 80s, Summers had pivoted from selling millions of records with Sting to composing film scores. From Every Breath You Take to now scoring A Man with No Breaths at All. This score actually holds up too. You've got that tropical percussion, quirky synths, and the breezy beach vibes that make scenes of total beachside chaos feel kind of weirdly relaxing. Basically, Jimmy Buffett meets accidental manslaughter. And the music pedigree didn't stop there. The end credits song, Hot and Cold, was performed by Jermaine Stewart, the singer behind the 1986 top hit, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, a legitimate pop star contributing the theme song to a corpse comedy. Then it got weird. The film's original working title was Heat Wave, but Motown owned the rights to the 1963 Martha and the Vandellas song of the same name, so the title got scrapped. It briefly became Hot and Cold, and then finally landed on Weekend at Bernie's. The soundtrack song kept the orphan middle title. And the end result? A film called Weekend at Bernie's closes with a song called Hot and Cold, performed by a guy famous for wanting you to keep your clothes on. Well, yeah, somehow that's the most 80s production decision of all time. Number 9, critics panned it and audiences didn't care. When Weekend at Bernie's hit theaters in the summer of 1989, the reviews, they came in pretty rough. Robert Ebert gave it, of course, 1 star out of 4. And his core argument? The movie had exactly one joke. Hey, look, a dead guy. And it stretched across 97 minutes. Metacritic eventually landed it at 32 out of 100. A few reviewers wrote like Bernie's sunglasses had personally wronged them in a previous life. Gen X audiences, though, had a different take. Roughly, wait, there's a movie where yuppies are too self-absorbed to notice a dead body for an entire weekend? Sign me up. Well, because underneath the gimmick, Weekend at Bernie's was actually pulling off a sharp satire of late 80s excess, a world where rich people partied so hard that they literally stopped noticing reality. Critics thought it was a one-joke movie, but the audiences saw the joke was on them. Despite the reviews, the film grossed over $30 million domestically on a $15 million budget. A modest theatrical win that turned into a real financial success once home video kicked in. And then came the cable run. By the time Gen X kids were teenagers, Weekend at Bernie's was always just on. HBO, Showtime, Comedy Central, lazy Saturday afternoons. You didn't pick it. It just found you. A movie that the critics dismissed quietly became one of the most enduring cult comedies of the entire decade. Bernie won, Ebert lost, and that smirk endures. Number 8, the Hollywood corpse prank that may have inspired the whole movie. In 1942, legendary Shakespearean actor and prolific drinker John Barrymore died at age 60. According to Errol Flynn's 1959 memoir, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, director Raoul Walsh and a few friends bribed someone at the funeral home. They borrowed Barrymore's body before the burial and propped him up in Flynn's living room. And then they waited. So when Flynn came home and turned the lights on to find his dead friend casually parked in his favorite chair, the reaction wasn't laughter. Flynn screamed. He bolted out of his house and was shaking for the rest of the night. Yeah? Apparently Bernie's central insight that a propped-up corpse is hilarious to everyone except the guy who finds him was discovered the hard way back in 1942. Now, whether the story is fully true is disputed. Barrymore's close friend Gene Fowler always denied it, claiming that he kept vigil with the body all night. But Flynn told it firsthand in his memoir. Walsh corroborated it in his own, and Drew Barrymore has confirmed it as family lore. Officially, nobody connected to Weekend at Bernie's has confirmed the Barrymore incident as direct inspiration, but the parallels are loud. A propped-up corpse, drunken friends pretending nothing's wrong, dark comedy wrapped around something genuinely inappropriate. Hollywood's been telling some version of this joke for nearly a century. The 1989 movie just gave it a beach house and a Rolex. Hey, quick pause. We're halfway in, and trust us, the back half of this list gets even weirder than the front. We've got Embezzlement, Rambo, and the cast who hung out at Central Perk. But if you're enjoying this video, hit that like button and drop a comment. What's your favorite Weekend at Bernie's moment? The Monopoly game, Bernie waving at the bikinis, the speedboat sequence? We want to hear it. All right, let's get back to the house party. Number 7, the Embezzlement movie made by an embezzler. The 1980s loved a good corporate fraud movie. Greedy executives, shady deals, guys in suspenders doing illegal things before lunch. Weekend at Bernie's fit right in, mostly because it was financed by one. The production company behind the film, Gladden Entertainment, was founded by David Begelman, a former Hollywood heavyweight who once ran Columbia Pictures. And years before Bernie Lomax got dragged through the Hamptons, Begelman's own career imploded in one of the most infamous Hollywood scandals of the era. He got caught forging checks at Columbia, including one in actor Cliff Robertson's name. He pled no contest. He did community service and got promoted. What a Hollywood story. Within 2 years, he was running MGM. Now consider the plot of Bernie's. 2 low-level employees stumble onto a massive insurance fraud scheme and end up covering up their boss's death. A movie about corporate fraud financed by Hollywood's most infamous corporate fraudster. The kind of casting that, if it happened today, would already be its own documentary. Then in 2014, director Ted Kotcheff and screenwriter Robert Klane sued 20th Century Fox and MGM, claiming that they were owed millions in profits the studios had allegedly withheld from the film's massive home video success. The kicker? The big money years were already beyond legal reach. The statute of limitations had expired on the first decade of profits, which is exactly when the film had made most of its money. They eventually got a piece of what came after, but the bulk of the cash was gone. At a certain point, Weekend at Bernie stops being a comedy and starts being a documentary. Number 6, Bernie became sitcom shorthand. Some movies fade into obscurity after the theaters empty out. Weekend at Bernie's became a comedy language. The most iconic sitcom callback came on Friends, specifically the legendary episode, The One with the Embryos, during the trivia game. Rachel confidently claims her favorite movie is the sophisticated drama Dangerous Liaisons. The trivia card reveals the truth. It's Weekend at Bernie's. The joke lands so hard because it instantly reframes Rachel, fashion-obsessed, image-conscious Rachel, as someone whose actual favorite movie is just 2 guys pretending a corpse is still alive for a weekend. How I Met Your Mother named an entire Season 8 episode Weekend at Barney's. The title alone did the work. The audience knew exactly what Weekend at blank means. The Simpsons even went bigger, because of course they did. Weekend at Burnsies uses the premise in its climax. Mr. Burns appears dead, and Homer and Smithers end up puppeting him around through a make-or-break investor meeting. Full tribute, title, and plot. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did its own version too. Dennis Reynolds rolling what looks like a dead patient out of a hospital room in a wheelchair, sunglasses included, to free up a bed for Dee. The reference doesn't even need to be explained. The sunglasses do all the work. And then Rick and Morty took it to its absolute breaking point. A fake movie inside an interdimensional cable bit called Last Will and Testa-Meow Weekend at Dead Cat Lady's House 2. At some point in 2014, somebody at Rick and Morty improvised this into existence, and nobody stopped them. Weekend at Blank stopped being a film reference. It became comedy shorthand for pretend the dead guy is still alive. A throwaway corpse comedy from 1989 quietly handed the entire industry a new joke template. And 3 decades later, writers are still using it. Number 5, most of the corpse abuse was made up on the spot. Now, Weekend at Bernie's had a surprisingly loose script. Director Ted Kotcheff gave his cast permission to escalate, staple a toupee onto Bernie's head, toss him over a balcony, do whatever made the scene funnier. Andrew McCarthy ran with it. The unwritten rule on set was simple. If it made the scene funnier, try it. The cast started escalating between takes, throwing out ideas in real time, inventing gags on the morning of the shoot. The most famous example? The Monopoly scene. McCarthy literally brought the game in from his condo because he'd been playing it the night before. He set it up, proposed playing Bernie in a match, and Kotcheff rolled with it. The kind of beat that only happens when actors have permission to keep escalating until somebody yells cut. Catherine Mary Stewart has talked about how loose the set was. You had accidents, real laughs, and on-the-fly fixes that ended up in the final movie. Kotcheff, just keep rolling. That's the secret of why the film works. The script gave you the premise, but the cast gave you the chaos. Number 4, from Rambo to the Dead Boss. This one breaks most people the first time that they hear it. The same guy who directed Weekend at Bernie's also directed the original Rambo. Ted Kotcheff, the man behind a hyper-violent thriller about a haunted Vietnam vet waging a one-man war in the Pacific Northwest. Also the man behind a beach comedy about pretending a dead boss is alive. Same guy, same decade, same director's chair. And he couldn't resist a wink. In one scene, Richard knocks out an intruder and calls out to Larry, who's hiding with, "You can come out now, Rambo," a throwaway line and a corpse comedy from the guy who launches the franchise that the joke is referencing. But the Easter egg goes even deeper. Bernie's gardener is played by George Ki Chung, the same actor who played Tay, a Vietnamese officer and one of the villains in Rambo First Blood, Part 2. His outfit in Bernie's is visually similar to his Rambo 2 look. A guy from Kotcheff's own action universe dropped into his beach comedy in nearly the same costume, hiding in plain sight for anyone paying attention. Kotcheff also cameoed in the film itself as Richard's father, the guy who walks out in his underwear and humiliates his son in front of his date. Andrew McCarthy ended up directing that scene because Kotcheff couldn't direct himself. A Rambo director getting directed by his own actor in a movie about a dead guy. That's Hollywood doing what Hollywood does. Number 3, 3 broken ribs for a guy who wasn't supposed to move. Now, playing dead sounds easy. No lines, no reactions, just kind of lie there. For Terry Kiser, it was one of the most physically punishing comedy performances of the entire decade. The problem with playing a corpse is that you can't protect yourself. You can't flinch when you're dropped, and you can't brace when you're tossed. You just absorb whatever your co-stars do to you and stay limp. Kiser absorbed a lot. He broke 3 ribs during the boat sequence, slamming into the back of the boat on a wave just before Bernie's body goes overboard. On top of that, a nerve in the back of his neck got compressed from being dropped on his head over and over during the couch scenes, causing violent dizzy spells on set. He was so banged up that for a couple of days, crew members literally had to carry him onto set and put him into position. And the kicker? Kiser kept the smirk locked in the whole time. Broken ribs, pinched nerve, being hauled to set like luggage, and the man still managed to look amused about it. That's not playing dead, that's commitment. Number 2, that's a real person. Quick question. The scene where the boys drag Bernie down the stairs face first, the dinner table scene where the head lolls into the salad, the couch flop, the moment he goes flying off the balcony, that's not a dummy. That is a person. Most movies with a corpse cheat constantly. Body doubles, wax mannequins, convincing rubber stand-ins for the rough stuff. Bernie's mostly didn't bother. The production only cheated in one spot, the speedboat sequence. The spot where Bernie goes flying off the back and gets dragged across the water, slamming into floating metal buoys. Yeah, that was too dangerous for Kiser. McCarthy told the AV Club that they used the dummy for dragging shots specifically. The rest of the dangerous stunt work, when Kiser was too banged up to keep going, went to a stunt double, who broke several ribs of his own. The dummy presumably held up better. One sequence, one swap, everything else was Kiser. Every awkward carry, every sloppy slump, every moment where Bernie pours sideways into a couch, well, that weight is real because the man is real. Your brain keeps telling you it's a prop, but your eyes know better. The audience is laughing at a dummy in their head, but they're actually watching a real guy. Number 1, it was all in the smirk. After the first day of playing dead, Terry Kiser watched the dailies and realized that he had a problem. He'd been doing exactly what a serious actor would do. Total stillness, no expression. The most realistic corpse he could deliver. Technically correct, but comedically, a disaster. Because a perfectly accurate dead body isn't funny, it's just upsetting. Every gag in the script, the dragging, dropping, the party scenes, stopped reading as comedy and started reading as a man being mistreated for 97 minutes. So Kiser asked the most basic question that an actor can ask. What does this character want? At 3 a.m. in his hotel room, looking in the mirror, he landed on a strange but workable answer. Bernie wasn't dead in the traditional sense. Bernie was, in some weird metaphysical way, goofing on the guys carrying him around. A final permanent prank from a guy who decided to enjoy the chaos. That's how the Bernie smirk was born. A soft, slightly amused, blissfully obvious grin. Locked in for the rest of the shoot. Not a corpse, but a guy who already checked out of reality and was kind of enjoying the ride. The instant Kiser locked it in, the entire tone of the movie shifted. Without the smirk, you've got a genuinely uncomfortable dark comedy. But with it, you've got 2 guys lugging around another guy who looks weirdly fine with all of it. The audience got permission to laugh, and the cast got permission to push the comedy as far as it would go. 1 actor, 1 day of bad footage, and 1 small smile. That is the whole movie. So there you have it, everyone. 15 weird facts about a movie that should never have worked, but somehow became one of the most rewatchable cult comedies of the entire cable era. If you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe, and check out other retro deep dives right here on our channel. Bernie may have been dead the whole movie, but somehow he still had better weekends than the rest of us. Until next time, this is Remember When.